According to Al-Mayadeen sources, Syria's de facto head of government, Al-Shara, allegedly left the capital, Damascus, accompanied by his family, amid rapid changes in the country's security. In the United States, the House gave the final approval to President Donald Trump's request to claw back about $9 billion from public broadcasting and foreign aid. Argentine workers from the Garrahan hospital mobilized against the working conditions to which they are subjected by the government of Javier Milei and demanded a salary increase. Hello and welcome to From the South. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, my name is Laura Rodriguez. We'll begin with the news. Syria's de facto head of government, Al-Shara, allegedly left the capital, Damascus, accompanied by his family, amid rapid changes in the country's security. Al-Mayadeen sources reported the supposed assassination of 3 prominent figures in the Syrian transitional administration, including Defense Minister Maraf Abu Kasra, amid a tense security climate and ambiguity surrounding the political scene. They also reported that a military unit entered the capital's radio and television building, where it directly supervised media operations in an action described as surprising. The events coincide with ongoing tensions in southern Syria, where the skies over Al-Shara province have witnessed intense attacks by Israeli warplanes, along with a number of drones and aircraft. Hours early, Syrian army troops had begun withdrawing from Suwaida after the de facto government and the Druze community reached a total truce after 4 days of clashes and growing security tensions in the southern Syrian city. Fighting between the de facto government forces and Druze armed groups have left more than 240 dead in the region. At the same time, on Wednesday, Israeli aircraft bombed the entrance to the General Staff headquarters in Damascus, the area around the presidential palace, and government military vehicles in Suwaida. In this regard, the de facto ruler Al-Shara condemned Israel for the strikes, stating it was pushing matters to a large-scale escalation. The Suwaida governorate has experienced an increase in tension on the ground, with violent clashes between Druze military factions and tribal factions in villages and towns in rural western Suwaida. In this new escalation, the Dara tribes declared a general mobilization in support of their members and to confront the Druze factions, a move that threatens to widen the scope of the fighting in southern Syria, tensions that have spread across the university campuses of Aleppo. In Palestine, over 4,000 children are suffering amputations as a result of attacks by the Israeli regime in the Gaza Strip, as part of its genocidal escalation against the Palestinian people. The United Nations warned that between 4,000 and 5,000 children in the Gaza Strip lost limbs since the beginning of the Israeli offensive. They also warned that around 10 children suffer amputations every day, many of them without access to anesthesia or adequate medical treatment, due to the humanitarian crisis in the region and the continuous attacks perpetrated by Israel. The Palestinian people face one of their worst health crises in the midst of international communities in action in the face of Israel's genocidal escalation. We change topics. In Spain, citizens mobilized to denounce the migrant hunting situation in Torre Pacheco, urged by the ultra-right after issuing xenophobic speeches. The different social organizations united to denounce the attacks against migrants in Torre Pacheco and to give a message to fight fascism. It should be noted that the xenophobic actions took place after far-right groups issued hate speeches against the migrant population. Meanwhile, the different social movements propose to reinforce the organizations that work against fascism and xenophobia, and also urge to work against violent actions against migration and hate speech. The Bolivian government registered an estimated 1,500 hotspots and 13 fires in 6 municipalities of Santa Cruz de la Sierra. The Bolivian Ministry of Environment and Water noted that several teams of the armed forces have been deployed in risky areas of fires to take precautionary measures. Meanwhile, the plurinational state activated the 2025 firefighting plan in defense of life and the environment. In this regard, authorities detailed that the firefighting plan was a comprehensive strategy for preventing, controlling, and restoring localities hit by fire. And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In the United States, the House gave final approval to President Donald Trump's request to claw back about $9 billion from public broadcasting and foreign aid early Friday. The bill was passed by a vote of 216 to 213 and will now go to Trump for his signature. In this sense, opponents voiced concerns not only about the programs targeted, but about Congress ceding its spending powers to the executive branch. Previously, no Democrats had supported the measure when it passed the Senate on Thursday. The package cancels about $1.1 billion for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and nearly $8 billion from several global health programs, such as the AIDS Plan, as well as humanitarian assistance.
The nays are 213. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Pursuant to the adoption of House Resolution 590, the Senate amendment to H.R. 4 is considered as agreed to.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum urged the United States government to take care of their own drug consumption crisis after President Donald Trump said that Mexican drug cartels have strong control over that country. During her regular morning press conference, Sheinbaum criticized Washington's lack of programs to prevent children and young people from consuming illicit substances. The president assured that drug consumption in the U.S. will not be eradicated as long as its government does not implement preventive measures to face it. By contrast, the head of state highlighted Mexico's efforts to combat the consumption and distribution of fentanyl in its territory.
They punish with heavy penalties, with strong charges, those who produce and distribute fentanyl, with longer prison sentences. We had already done that in Mexico. Mexico has made great progress in that area. Remember that our Constitution takes that into account. None other than in our Constitution. In its Article 19, it also establishes the mechanism for control of precursors. That is the raw material used for fentanyl. So not only for the control of the fentanyl already produced, but also for its raw materials.
Cuban National Assembly members debate the country's energy recovery and mechanisms in place to guarantee people's power. During the second day of debates as part of the Assembly's fifth regular session, ministers assessed the progress of the government's program for the recovery of the national power system. In addition, as part of the economic strategies approved, Prime Minister Manuel Marrero announced the transformation of the official exchange market to begin in the second half of the year. The move will include a comprehensive update of the current exchange rate system. The debate sessions and measures seek to revitalize the economy amid the ongoing U.S. blockade while defending the achievements of the revolution and reinforcing Cuba's sovereignty. In a plenary session of Parliament, the Cuban government approved an increase in age, disability, and unified pensions starting in September. Prime Minister Manuel Marrero Cruz explained that for the moment, a comprehensive reform cannot be undertaken, given that they do not have the financial resources due to the blockade imposed by the United States. However, he assured that work is being done to find proposals and solutions. In this regard, he announced that actions will be implemented that will constitute sources to compensate for the demand for increased spending in the Social Security budget. The government of Cuba also denounced that the United States is allocating millions of dollars in funding to promote subversion and destabilize the country, while cutting funds intended to serve the U.S. people. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez described as anti-Cuban politicians those in the United States that attempt to promote a $75 million budget to finance subversion on the Caribbean island. Rodriguez condemned this action against Cuba as the U.S. Congress approved cuts to domestic public services. The criticism comes amid a new wave of bilateral tensions after the Cuban parliament rejected a memorandum from the Trump administration that reinforces the economic blockade and prohibits U.S. tourism to Cuba. In other news, Nicaraguans ratified their firm desire to maintain peace and stability in the Central American nation. According to a survey conducted by M&R Consulting, 98.7% of the population considered that peace in the country must not be put at risk under any circumstances. The respondents also expressed their agreement with the social policies of co-president Daniel Ortega and highlighted his commitment to democracy and for the construction of a just society. They also said they supported the socialist ideals promoted by the government and highlighted its drive for national unity as the key to the country's progress. To change topics, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva reiterated his rejection of U.S. President Donald Trump's interference following his threats to increase tariffs on Brazilian products by up to 50% as of August 1st. The Brazilian head of state assured that his country, in response to the Trump administration's threats, will impose taxes on U.S. technology companies. In addition, President Lula criticized the letter published by his U.S. counterpart as the basis for the intended tariff increase, pointing out that it does not appeal to negotiation and that it links the tariff increase to the legal situation of former President Jair Bolsonaro, who is being tried for an attempted coup d'etat. We have a second short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. Argentinian workers from the Garrahan hospital mobilized this Thursday to protest against the working conditions to which they are subjected by the government of Javier Milei, as well as for salary increase. In view of the impossibility of the government of Javier Milei to provide them with guarantees months ago, when the conflict started, the collective marches from the Congress of the Nation to May Plaza, accompanied by several trade unions, social and feminist organizations, among many others. Over 90 organizations joined the march in defense of Garrahan. For her part, the General Secretary of the Association of Professionals and Technicians, Norma Lezana, said that the hospital belongs to the children and Garrahan is not to be touched.
Un una hipertensión a un paciente con diabetes, no lo puede sostener porque no puede acceder a la medicación, ¿sí?
Lo que veo es una, o sea,
What I'm seeing in the economic impact affecting our impacts, starting with the cuts to the retirees' healthcare coverage. We are seeing more and more patients coming to the hospitals because they can't get their medication or access care at the health centers run by their insurance. People are falling through the cracks in the healthcare system and arriving in much worse health conditions because, unfortunately, they wait until the last moment to seek help. Overcrowded emergency rooms, exhausted coworkers, and overwhelmed facilities. That's what I'm seeing right now in our hospitals. There's been a sharp increase in the number of patients we are seeing. People who used to be able to afford private insurance or healthcare coverage and get treatment elsewhere. That's leading to an overcrowding in our N2, with overloaded schedules and so on. And then there's the issues of not being able to maintain chronic treatments. For example, someone with high blood pressure or diabetes can't keep up with their treatment because they can't afford the medications. That's the reality. In other news, Bolivian President Luis Arce warned Thursday that if the opposition wins in the August 17 elections, it will privatize state-owned companies. The statement was issued during a public political rally in Tarija, in the south of the country, where the head of state stressed that the opposition's privatization would target strategic sectors such as hydrocarbons and telecommunications, putting at risk the economic stability and national sovereignty achieved by his administration through state control. On the other hand, he called for the unity of all leftist forces to work for a prosperous future for Bolivia and its citizens. Less than a month away from the elections, the debate on the economic model has become one of the central issues of the campaign. Now we go to Venezuela. During the National Assembly of the Communal Coffee Plan 2025 to 2026 from the state of Lara, President Nicolás Maduro announced that a binational agreement has been signed with Colombia. The agreement seeks to immediately establish the first zone of peace and integral economic development. President Maduro informed that by 2025, Venezuela expects to produce more than 500 million kilograms of coffee. He also highlighted that the Venezuelan gross domestic product will grow by more than 6% in the second quarter of 2025. The head of state ratified the plan for all the engines of growth, production, supply, and exports, with the aim of consolidating a sustainable economic model oriented to the country's integral development.
Today at noon, in the middle of so many things that we do, there was an event that I qualify as historic. At the headquarters of the Vice Presidency of the Republic, this document has been signed. This document that I have in my hand, with the signature of the official representatives of the government of the Republic of Colombia and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, has sealed a binational agreement to immediately establish the first binational zone for peace, economic, social, cultural, and integral development between Colombia and Venezuela. The first binational zone is born.
In the framework of the National Assembly of the Communal Coffee Plan 2025 to 2026, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro highlighted the economic results of the country in the last years.
The figures for the economy's second quarter of the year 2025 are very encouraging. In the first quarter, you remember, January, February, and March, we grew 9%. In the second quarter, they tried to launch an economic war again, and I said we were going to face it and overcome it, with nerves of steel and tranquility to work and produce.
Porque todas las circunstancias han demostrado que solo el trabajo vence la maldad y la guerra económica, trabajo y más trabajo, y ahí tenemos.
Because all circumstances have shown that only work can overcome evil and the economic war. with work and more work. And there you have it. In the second quarter of this year, April, May, and June, Venezuela's gross domestic product grew more than 6%. 17 months of continuous growth.
17 trimestres continuos de crecimiento.
And in the next few days, we will have the consolidated results of the first semester of the year. Last year, we grew 9 points. The year before last, in 2023, we grew 5.5. In 2022, it was like a rocket. We grew 15 points.
En el 2023 crecimos 5.5. En el 2022 que fue un cohete.
This year's first quarter, 9%. The second, above 6. So all these figures represent very good news for the economy and for the people of Venezuela. We're moving forward with the 13 engines, with each one of them.
Del pueblo de Venezuela. Con los 13 motores vamos avanzando uno por uno.
The bronze statue of Emperor Marcus Aurelius will be repatriated to Turkey after 65 years of scientific and legal efforts. This sculpture, which was looted in the 1960s, is currently in the Cleveland Museum of Art and will be returned to its country after a temporary exhibition in the U.S. Museum. The return of the piece was announced during a ceremony where it was emphasized that the repatriation is part of an effort by the Turkish government to recover its cultural pieces through international cooperation, highlighting scientific analysis to confirm the origin of the sculptures. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Laura Rodriguez. Thank you for watching.